Welcome to The Big Break Show, a podcast where we discuss short-term rentals, entrepreneurship, life, mindset, and everything in between. Here are your hosts, Rafa Loza and Jesse Vasquez.
What's up, everybody? Welcome yet again, another episode of The Big Break Show with my good host, Mr. Jesse Vasquez. What's up, buddy?
Oh, you didn't even call me your co-host. You called me good host. Does that make me a level lower or a level above where I was
You went up
before, bro?
You're moving up, bro. You're moving up.
Moving on up, you guys. Can you believe that? I am moving on up. And you know what, Rafa? I'm not even sure what episode we're on, but I think it's probably 40, dude. And 40 is my favorite number because that's how freaking old I am, if you guys can tell by my gray hair. And you know why today's special, Rafa?
Because of Mr. Steve Rozenberg, or what?
That is exactly freaking why. You guys, we brought him on today to talk about real estate. I mean, we lightly touched on that. Today, he talked about mindset, which I think is literally the most important process of building your business. He talked about the fundamentals of business. This guy was an airline pilot, still is an airline pilot. I forgot to ask him why he still drives. He has all the, or flies. He's got so many successful businesses going, hanging around with all these people. This guy's built a fantastic, dude, Rafa. This guy is just, he's doing so much stuff, man.
Yeah, it's funny. I wanted to talk about the pilot thing because my younger brother's a pilot, right? And we didn't even get a chance to talk about it because he just went on these really good tangents about business and mindset and just the way you shift and the way you talk about it. And he's so good at that, dude. He's a business coach. Yeah. He's a mindset coach. He's a real estate coach. I'm part of his masterminds, right? And we meet up once a week and he brings on these really good speakers and we just kind of chat and hang out and he'll help people get through hurdles and stuff like that. And so I'm so happy he came on the show, man, because people are really going to enjoy this one. This is probably going to be one of the top episodes that we have so far. The guy's energy is insane. So
yeah, crazy energy. And you guys, please like and share this with other people. Rafa and I don't sell anything on here. Our goal is to get this to as many people as possible. So do us a huge solid, literally liking and sharing this, leaving a note on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, literally just rating it. If you're listening to this right now, take 2 seconds of your time just to give us a rating, because that helps with the algorithm and we can get out to more people and help more people, and all the guests we have can get more recognition. And that's what it's all about, man. Helping other people level up in their space, right, Rafa?
Yes, sir. That's what this whole entire episode was about. So without further ado, we love you all. Thank you for always sticking around, and until the next one. So Steve, what's up, man? Thanks for coming on the show today. Really excited to have you on. Before we get going, I want everybody who listens and watches to know who you are, what you got going on, what you do. I'm sure a lot of them already know you because they follow us through a lot of the same platforms and stuff like that. And I know you're big in Bigger Pockets as well, but let everybody know who you are, what you do, and where you came from, please.
Yeah. So my name's Steve Rozenberg. I was actually born and raised in Los Angeles and started off being an airline pilot. And that was all I ever wanted to do as a kid, was be an airline pilot, fly airplanes. And got hired at 25 years old as a commercial airline pilot for a major airline. Had the safest, most secure job that you could imagine, being an airline pilot, flying around the world, until a day in history happened, and that changed my life along with many other lives. And that was 9/11. 9/11 hit, and it caused a big uproar in the airline industry for people that don't remember. But 2 days after the towers fell, I got delivered a furlough notice from the airline. Basically, it was being told that safe, secure job that you thought you had, it's not very safe, it's not very secure, and you're about to be on the street with 50,000 other pilots, so good luck. So I realized that the illusion of having a job was really just that. And I really couldn't blame anyone else except for myself, because I kind of caused it to happen, because I got lazy. I believed in the idea that I would have a job and that job would take care of me, which, we all want that to happen, but that's unfortunately not the reality today. And I started looking to see what people did that were trying to figure out to be successful. Unfortunately, when you do something like be an airline pilot, unless you're flying a metal tube around in the sky, you're really not of any use to anybody. And so that was my situation, is I really was not marketable to do anything. And I didn't have a skill set except flying airplanes. And I started looking around, and it looked like a lot of people were tied to real estate. There was just people like that, wealthy, had money, had the lifestyle. And I was like, well, fuck, I don't know anything about real estate. Like, I might as well just learn. So I went to the library, because I didn't have YouTube back then, had to get a library card. and had to start renting books. And I started reading a book a week on real estate. Every week I went back and I got another book and I got another book. And I learned everything I could as much as possible. I started learning how to wholesale and with option contracts, and I was doing double closes, and I was flipping properties, and I got really good at it. And then I started buying properties and did okay with that. Bought an apartment complex, did okay with that, made some money. And I realized that real estate has a very interesting thing that you learn very quickly, is that just when you think you're smart enough, and just when you think you know everything that's going on, it comes through with a wrecking ball, and it will devastate your life if you don't fucking pay attention to what you should be paying attention to, meaning the numbers in the business. And me and my business partner, we had about 40 houses, low income, high cash flow houses, as they like to call them. And we just got our asses kicked. I mean, we were in a bad way. We knew too much and we weren't implementing. So we knew all the things we should be doing, but we weren't doing it. And we really were in a bad way, and we didn't know what to do. 2008 recession hit. Couldn't get rid of them. Couldn't sell them. They were just, just to be very blunt, they were just shithole properties. And we realized why other people didn't want them. And they were very time intensive, hard to manage. The return that we thought we were supposed to be getting was never realized, because every time the tenants would leave, they would take parting gifts with them, like wiring, electrical, plumbing, appliances. I mean, you name it. We'd walk back to an empty shell of a house. So we ended up figuring out, okay, nobody wants them. Nobody will manage them. We got to figure this out. So he and I sat down. We plumbed the infrastructure of a management company just to manage our own properties. It was really self-preservation. But we got really good at it because I used my background of being an airline pilot. He was an IT guy. So we started implementing some strategies. We were investors. We knew what to do, but we were so emotionally attached to the situation, we weren't doing all the things that we knew we had to do. And so once we started running it like a business, the property stabilized. They were good. But then what was interesting is we had other people approach us, other investors. They were like, hey, could you guys manage our houses? You guys seem like you fixed your problems. And at first we were like, hell no, we don't want your problems. We barely figured out our own. Like, why would we want to take on your shit? And so then we realized, maybe there's a business here. Like maybe there's something, maybe we can make money managing other people's properties. So we went to a business coach and we told the business coach everything that we did, all the stupid shit, all the mistakes. And, we got ripped off by everybody. I mean, you name it. Everybody had their hands in our pockets and everybody was ripping us off because we allowed it. I don't blame anybody but myself. I take ownership on that. But what happened is we hired this business coach. We stayed with this guy for 7 years. Every single week, we got coached by him on how to run a business. It wasn't real estate. It was how to run a business. We took that business and we scaled it to over 1,000 properties. We're operating in 3 major cities. Half of our company, or 60% of our company, was outsourced to virtual assistants in Mexico. We learned how to scale and systemize a multi-million-dollar company. And we eventually sold that company to a very large venture capital firm in San Francisco that I became a vice president with for a while. And I learned about how to sell a business, and I learned how big money works with venture capital. So that's my story.
Man, Steve, that's a lot of stuff to unpack, man. Do you remember exactly where you were when 9/11 hit?
Yeah, I do. I had just moved from Guam. I was flying out of Guam, and we were in Houston. I didn't know anyone in Houston because I was born and raised in Los Angeles, but the base for the airline I worked at was in Houston. And all of our stuff was on a boat somewhere between Guam and the port of Los Angeles. And I was in a rented condo that we stayed in until we were going to buy a house in Houston, and all of our stuff arrived. So I'm sleeping on like an air mattress because we couldn't bring anything with us and we didn't know where we were going to live. So we got like air mat. It's like we were camping in a condo basically. And I remember I didn't even have a TV. I had to go to Circuit City, which I don't even think they're around anymore. I had to go down to Circuit City to watch 9/11 and watch it unfold because all I had was a radio. And I'm like, holy shit, like what's going on? And I was actually supposed to fly the next day. I was supposed to do a trip from Houston to Newark and then from Newark to San Francisco. One of the flights that happened with, that it didn't go down, but that was a targeted flight that I realized after, not my specific flight, but Newark to San Francisco was a targeted route that they had. So it's very, very clear because I was in the, I knew people in that industry, obviously, and, people that know people and that kind of stuff. So it very much hit home to me. So when 9/11 happened, I was in a rented apartment because our stuff was en route from Guam to the U.S. or to mainland. And so I didn't even have a TV. Like when 9/11 hit, I heard about it on the radio. And I had to actually go to Circuit City, which I don't even think they're around anymore, but I had to go to Circuit City, like at the mall, to watch the whole shit unfolding. And I'm like standing there all day with a bunch of other people. And I never forget, I remember thinking to myself, I didn't cause this to happen, but because of this, my life will forever be changed as a result because of my career as an airline. And I thought I had nothing to do with this, but I think I'm fucked. I mean, I'm like, can't be good, right? Every plane, I don't know if you guys remember, you guys are kind of young, but when 9/11 happened, every plane, wherever it was in the world, had to circle and land immediately. So it's the only time in history that they basically shut down the airspace worldwide. I get chills thinking about it. So here's something that you want to talk about hitting close to home. I had a very good friend of mine that also worked at the same airline I did. He flew what's called A-10 Warthogs in the National Guard. Okay, so he was based out of Connecticut. And he was up there doing his, 2 weeks a month or whatever the fuck they do. He was up there doing his deal. And next thing you know, they launch them and they didn't know if it was a training mission. They just said that there's a plane en route to the White House and your job is to take the plane out. They didn't know if it was a Cessna 152, an airline. So as they were going, they were getting more intel. And then they find out that it's a commercial airliner. It's a 757, which is a big airplane. And he's thinking like, holy shit, like, is this a training mission or is this real? And he goes, I know that it was real when they said the weapons are hot and to engage if they see the plane.
Wow.
So they didn't see the plane.
No, they ended up getting in contact. So every plane, these guys just weren't in contact with anyone, so they didn't know. Once they got in radio contact with them, then they landed. So here's what was interesting. And I know this is going off the subject of real estate a little bit, but I'll never forget. So all these planes, imagine these planes are scattered all over the world. There were so many planes parked that at the airports, they were like parked like jigsaw puzzles just to fit them on the tarmac. So about 4 days after 9/11, I had already gotten my furlough notice 2 days after or whatever. Now it's like 5 days after. So I'm like a dead man walking. I know I'm basically going to be out of a job soon, but they're like, hey, we need all the crews to go pick up these aircraft and reposition them around the world, different parts to get shit moving again, right? And I'll never forget this. I'm walking, I think it was Denver Airport or it was some airport. It may have been LA or somewhere, but I'm walking in the airport. And if you've ever been in an airport when there's no one there, it's very eerie. It's this huge cavernous building and there's no one. There's no passengers. There's no cleaners. There's no vendors. It's quiet and it's echoey, right? And me and it's like me and just other flight crews, we're walking trying to find the airplanes, right? It's like this big cemetery out on the terminal. And I remember looking out at all the planes on the tarmac, dead. They're just sitting there dead. And I remember thinking to myself, my life will never be the same. And I allowed this to happen. Like I got lazy because I thought that I had a safe, secure job. And I remember thinking to myself, and this is before I even knew about real estate or anything, but I remember thinking to myself, I will never allow someone or something else to control my destiny. Like, I'm not going to allow that. Like, this is on me. I had to own it. And I don't, I didn't know anything about motivation, all the other bullshit that we hear about. That didn't exist. I mean, this was like 5 days after 9/11. I'm thinking to myself, man, I've got to figure this out. Like, I've got to figure this out. We all have our pity parties and feel bad for ourselves. I get it. But I'll never forget that moment. And that is, a lot of people ask me, like, what's my drive? I tell you what, when you touch that hot stove and you have something like that happen to your life and you know that you caused it, to me, that's my drive, because I don't ever want to be on my back heels again going, fuck, I got lazy. Like you know what I mean? I don't want to be that person again. So that's my personal drive, because I've been there. And it's, I've also done it by buying bad properties. I've bought a lot of bad real estate. And I'm the first to admit I am not a good investor when I first started. I sucked at buying properties. I got so bad at buying properties that my wife told me, if you buy another one, it better be nice because you're going to be living in it because you suck at buying houses and you need to stop. So like all of a sudden now I failed as an investor and I'm like, I've got to figure this out. And like my thing is I'm not going to give up. Like I've got to figure this out. And I just, it's that old model that I just kept getting back up because my back was against the wall. And I had no other option but to just keep getting back up after being ripped off, lied to. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to get up. I've got to get up. And slowly I stopped getting beat as much. And I started learning and I kept learning. And that's why, I've got these masterminds and I coach people. I tell people like, I'm not doing this from some glass house, man. I've had the sleepless nights of sitting there saying like, what am I going to do? And the worst part, I say worst part, I caused it. Like I did it all to myself. Like I caused everything to happen. It wasn't like, I didn't cause 9/11, of course, but I caused myself to be lazy. And what's interesting is 20 years later, right? 20 years after 9/11, we have COVID. Okay. COVID hits, airlines start furloughing people. I have people approaching me. They're like, hey, you were the most requested airline pilot because I still am a pilot. I still fly. I fly a Boeing 777 aircraft all over the world for a major airline. And this guy reaches out to me and he's like, hey, man, you were the most requested guy for our podcast. It was a bunch of airline pilots and stuff. And I'm like, really? He's like, yeah. He's like, I don't know what your story is, but apparently it's pretty impressive. I'm like, okay, so I'll tell you my story. So now it's 20 years later, same friends of mine that worked at the airline that were getting furloughed and were scared of losing their jobs are now still scared of losing their jobs, nervous. I'm in a different position, right? I own a lot of real estate. I do a lot of other ventures. I own businesses. I do a lot of different stuff. So they asked me, they're like, what's the difference between you today and you 20 years ago after 9/11? And I'm like, it's one word: action. I took massive action and accountability. I did not let anything stop me. I fucking got up every day. I still got up every day at 4 a.m. I do what I have to do to not only survive, but to thrive. I don't feel guilty for myself. And I'm like, all these other people that want some simple answer, right? Unfortunately, a lot of people are entrepreneurs in real estate. They think that I'm going to have some magic word or button. It doesn't work that way. The magic button and the magic word is called action, and it's called accountability and ownership. And it's a matter of getting up every day and saying, you know what? It's okay if I fail. It's okay if I mess up. Nobody cares. I get a lot of people that are always telling me, oh, I don't want to do this because I don't want to look dumb, or I don't want to ruin my reputation. I'm like, do you really think you're that important? I mean, really, do you think people care that much about you that you're this popular person that no one knows about? Like, give me a break, man. You're not that valuable. You're not that important. You have to care more than anyone else. People tell me all the time, like, hey, Steve, like, oh, I would do what you do, but this or that. I don't give a shit. It doesn't matter to me. Like, I'll tell you, like, oh, I'm sorry to hear that. I get it. But at the end of the day, I got my own problems. I got my own life. I got my own shit I got to do. I can help you. I can get you to where you want to go if you're the one doing it. It's like going to the gym. A trainer's not going to lift the weights for you. He can tell you what to do, but at the end of the day, you got to be the one doing the work. So that's my story. Sorry, man. I went on a little bit of a rant there.
No, dude, it was a good one. I'm glad you're talking about all this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. First off, Steve, it wasn't your fault, man. It's freaking Bin Laden and Al Qaeda.
That's right. Yeah.
So we can't blame you for that. And then I got a follow-up question. And just maybe make this real short before I get into real estate. Sully Sullenberger landing on the Hudson. Was that a good landing, or was that not a good landing?
Hey, man, look, any landing you can walk away from is a good landing, right? In the airline, if the takeoff equals the landing at the end of the day, you're doing pretty good. Sully, and look, whenever there's an accident or an incident, the airlines will retrace what happened so that they can try to fix it so it doesn't happen again, right? Which is most different than most any other industry. We actually look at disasters and crashes and go, how do we make sure this doesn't happen again? Which would be a lot better if a lot of businesses did that, if you think about it. But what happened with Sully is he had one thing go wrong. He hit a shitload of birds. They flamed out both engines, but then he had everything else go right for him. He happened to be at the right place at the right time. He had the fact that there was the waves in the Hudson weren't choppy. There wasn't a tugboat in front of him that he would have smacked into. There wasn't any guideline wires. So he had, look, and I hats off to the guy. He saved lives and he did his job. He had something go wrong and he had a lot of things go right. And a lot of that is training. He was trained to do this. It wasn't by accident. If you put someone else up there that's never flown a plane or flown a plane one time with no training and something happened, probably wouldn't have been the same result.
Right. Yeah. And you know why I bring that up, and you just touched on, like, so pilots, they actually created the simulation of the same thing, like the same situation, the same thing, and all these other pilots went in there to try to mimic what he did through a simulator. And I know it's not the same thing, but like nobody was able to do it. Like I remember reading this article that all these pilots weren't able to do it. And these are like 20-year, 10-year, like long time pilots. And the reason why I bring this up is because in business, you just brought it up right now. Like people fail at stuff, or they don't do things the right way. And you know, the pilot industry, the airline industry goes back and looks at every single disaster and goes like literally not speed, every potential possibility. So how did your airline training, you talked about that a second ago, how did all that come back to real estate, and how are you preparing yourself in that sense? We talk about you mentally prepared. And how old are you, Steve, by the way, if you don't mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm 49. And so to answer your question, I didn't realize it at the time, but I've been trained. I've been an airline pilot for almost 30 years. I've been trained by Boeing, by some major airlines that invest a lot, hundreds of thousands of dollars to make sure that I don't kill a bunch of people, right? The plane I fly is a Boeing 777, right? It holds 380 people. Gross takeoff weight is 775,000 pounds with 230,000 pounds of fuel. If we impact something, we're going to make the news, right? I mean, that's just how it is, right? So here's what I've learned, and this is how we are able to scale our business. Now, let me tie this into real estate. I don't care if you own one door. I don't care if you flip. I don't care if you have short-term rentals. It doesn't matter. You own a business, and that business is derived by policies, procedures, and structure. So let me just paint a story for you. And this can be relatable to anything that anyone does in real estate, because I used it in mine. I didn't know it at the time, because you're training, your subconscious is kind of doing shit for you. And you're like, wow, that kind of connected. Nothing happens by chance, right? So imagine this. I want you to just picture this for a second. Imagine you're sitting at the gate and you see an aircraft come up to the gate. Okay. So let's just say it's an aircraft that I fly. It's a Boeing 777, which again holds 380 people. All of a sudden, you see all this flurry of people going, it looks like ants, right? A big ant farm's going on. But what we see in the airline industry is what we call the dance, okay? Now think about, and I want you, as I'm explaining this, I want you to imagine how this was relatable to real estate and a real estate business. You have 380 people exiting the aircraft. You have all of their bags, luggage, and cargo being offloaded from the plane. You have the cleaners cleaning the airplane. You've got flight attendants doing all their safety checks. Maintenance is walking around making sure that everything is safe on the airplane, oil, all the air, everything is good. Everything's structurally sound. Fuelers are hooking up fuel valves to this plane. Now, this plane holds 230,000 pounds of fuel. It takes over 45 minutes to fuel this thing, okay? We pilots are up in front. We're checking safety of flight items, destination, weather, system structure. We're making sure that we're going to get from A to B. 380 people get back on this aircraft. All of their bags are loaded. And in 1 hour, we push back from the gate, and not one of us has had to talk to anyone else to do their job. It's a dance that happens. So imagine when you're getting a rental property, and you've got maintenance, you've got contractors, you've got this, you've got that. What if you had systems? Now think about this. This happens in Sydney, Australia, Tokyo, Japan, London, England, Los Angeles, Dallas, Texas. It's all the same. We don't go like, hey, I'm in Tokyo today. Do I load the bags? Like, I'm not sure do I check the tire? We know our job. Now, I could be the best pilot in the world, but if that fueler doesn't do his job and doesn't put the right amount of fuel on the plane, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how good of a pilot we are. We're not going to make our destination. So how many times in business do people not know what to do? And is it not scalable because it's people dependent, not systems dependent? If you could create your real estate model to be systems dependent, to run off of structure, procedures, checklists, you've got the best perfect model in an airline. Right? I mean, think about it. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, that shit is happening without us even having to talk to anyone. But the thing is we have systems and we have safeguards that check the checker. I don't have to ask the guy like, hey, you sure you put the right amount of fuel on? We've got systems that check that. So we've got redundancy. So if you think about real estate, people like, look, no company or business is special, right? We're all the same, right? They all run under the same chassis. You've got marketing makes the phone ring, sales answers the phone and converts them to a client, operations does the transactions, gets them to buy again from them or gets referrals, and accounting pays everyone. That's how all businesses run. If you treat your real estate that way, because that's what it is, right? You're just selling a roof over someone's head. It's four walls and a roof. Whether it's a short-term rental, it's overnight, whether it's a long-term rental, whether you're flipping the property, it's a business. And a business is just repetitive tasks done over and over again to perfection. If you can make those repetitive tasks systemized, automated, and outsourced, well, now you have a business. If you can't do that, you own a job. And if you don't have a plan to scale and grow your job, you've got two strategies to get out of it, like in flying. You run out of gas and you run the whole fucking thing into the ground, or you die with it. Those are your two options. If you can't learn to systemize it, that's what's going to happen, because the business will always win. Real estate will win. It will show you. And I've learned it, man. I've had those sleepless nights because I didn't treat it like a business. So I wish I could say like, oh, I went into this like an airline pilot. I'm so smart. Let me show you how to system. I did everything wrong. And I didn't realize like how connected they were. I was like, oh, that's flying. This is real estate. And it took someone, a coach, to actually show me like, no, dumbass, it's the same. Look, you have the perfect model to replicate. So that's how I learned, and that's how I got into. But you see how it's relatable, how business and being a pilot is actually, it's relatable to any business. And that's why I coach all kinds of businesses. I do masterminds because it's so relatable to get you to that next level.
Yeah, I love what you're bringing up. There's two things that you brought up that I actually wanted to touch on. Number one, how when people screw something up, they give up and then they don't figure out what the next best move is to try to solve that problem, right? Like, how you do the failure, you learn from the failure. The airline fucks up and a plane falls, they have to figure out how not to make that happen again, because there's lives on that plane, right? Well, most people take a business and they'll run a business and they make one mistake, or they don't get to where they want to go, and they immediately just give up and say, well, that's it. I failed at that. I'm never going to do it again. And they move on with their lives. And then they wonder why they're not where they want to be 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 years later. Right. Anyway, there's the whole systems things. I love what you said, because I have a lot of pretty good systems in my place. Like I was talking to Jesse the other day, and he's like, hey, how do you handle your cleanings? Right. Because, like I run short-term rentals, and I'm like, what do you mean? I don't handle my cleanings at all. Like, I don't even know who's checking out today. I have 9. I actually have to call my girl and go, hey, how many checkouts do we have today? 10, 15, 20? I have no idea, because I have the systems and processes in place that will tell them who needs to show up to what unit at what time and leave at what time, so that the guest can check in at that exact same day. Like, I don't have to look at it, right? And when you implement those systems and you implement those processes, dude, it makes your life so much easier to actually focus and build rather than have to. Dude, how many businesses I read an article the other day about how many businesses are shutting down because the people get old and they have to close them down because there's nobody else available to manage it.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, look, 95% of businesses will fail in the first 5 years. It's not because the business model sucks. It's because the leadership is not there. Because here's the challenge. And when I do a 3-day mastermind where I do a deep dive into the mindset, because let me back up a little bit. One thing that people have to realize is if they want to be successful, right? Everybody wants to be successful. What they don't realize is many people change out that word be to do. They really want to do successful because they think that working hard is going to make them more successful, right? Just like you said, Rafa, look, I don't know. Like, that's not my job. Like, that's not my business. I just look at metrics and KPIs and data. So what I tell people is if you want to be successful, you have to become a successful person first. Because once you become a successful person in your head, you can be successful in anything that you do. But if you are just a hard worker, you're just going to work hard in anything that you do. And look, here's the thing. We all know the truth. And the truth is the hardest worker in the room is not the most successful. They're the most tired, but they are not the most successful. If that was the case, construction workers and day laborers would be the richest people on the planet. But they're not. It's a lie that we tell ourselves because we don't know what to do with our time. So we're like, well, I guess I was productive today. It's like, really? Doing what? It's like getting in your car and driving around the subdivision all day. You didn't get shit done, but you want to tell yourself you were successful. And here's the challenge. a lot of times we don't know what we should do. So we go, well, I guess I'll dive back into working in my business. It's like, no. I always tell when I coach people, use your neck up. Do not use your hands. Use your brain. You can think more money than you can ever make by working. You have to become that person. And so when I do my masterminds and I bring in high level speakers and all these people, they don't work harder than anyone, but they make 10, 20 times more money than the average person. What's the difference? They don't get 25 hours. They all have 24 hours. They're not older. They're our age, or my age. What are they doing? They're thinking differently. They have become successful people. And that's the biggest challenge. And I tell people all the time, look, if you're afraid of, like I tell people all the time, like I'm a big believer in being coached. And just, I put it out there. I probably spent close to $1 million in the last 20 years in my self-development. Now, some people may go, man, that's fucking stupid. Well, I've made several $1 million because of it. Would you spend $1 million to make 10 million? I would. And the one thing I've learned, and one of my mentors taught this to me, he goes, Steve, if you're afraid to invest in yourself, you will never get the return out of yourself because you're afraid. You put more value on money than you do on educating yourself. He's like, so if money's what you're afraid of and you're afraid to spend it, you're always going to be afraid to make it. It doesn't go one way and not the other. It flows both ways. And that was a big thing to me. And I was like, wow, I never thought about that. He's like, you want to be successful? Get around successful people, invest in yourself, and become the person that you need to be. Whether it's a real estate, stocks, business, it doesn't matter. These are all strategies. These are all tactics. That's like saying today I'm going to take the car, I'm going to take the bus, I'm going to take the train, as long as you get to your destination. So let's talk about destination for a second. What a lot of people don't realize, let me ask this, when you guys get in your car, if you're going to dinner and you guys say, hey, let's meet at 8 o'clock at dinner. Well, then you may say, Rafa, you may go, okay, I got to leave at 7:15. Jesse, you may say, okay, I got to leave at 6:30 because there's traffic on this side of the town. We're going to be there at 8. 8 o'clock, dinner is the destination. That's the goal. So what happens is you back out the goal and go, okay, well, we got traffic. I got this, I got that. Okay, we're going to leave it. Jesse's going to leave at 6:30. You're going to leave at 7:15 to get to the destination. If you get lost along the way and you pull over and ask me for directions, I'm going to go, where are you going? And you're going to go, we're going to this restaurant. Okay, well, you got to go this way, this way, this way. Okay, thank you. How many people, and I was one of them, so I'm very familiar, start a business with no destination? They just get in their car and they drive. They don't know where they're going. They don't know what time they're going to get there. They don't even know what it looks like when they arrive. And then they ask me, Steve, can you help me? And I'm like, where are you going? I don't know. When do you need to get there? No idea. How do you know that you made it there? Not even sure. Well, then I can't fucking help you. Like, I can't, you know what I'm saying? So many, it sounds ridiculous, right? Like if you're driving in your car and you're like, can you give me directions? And you're like, I don't know where I'm going. I don't know what time. I don't even know if I'm going north or south. And so we equate being busy to getting things done, but you may be busy doing the wrong thing in the wrong direction. And so when you think about it that way, when you think of a business as having a destination, if you can build that destination first and you can think it, and when I coach people, I spend more time on that destination because how you get there is easy. Once you know where you're going, building the funnels and all that, setting up that infrastructure, that's important. Running hose through it, running water through that hose and flooding it, that's easy, man, once you know what you're doing. And so people tell me, when I tell people like, what's your goal? They're like, I want to own 10 rentals. I'm like, that's fucking stupid because that's like saying I want to be a freeway. Where are you going with this? What is the life that you want to have? You know what I mean? It's like, I want 10 rentals. Like, what does that mean? Like that's not a goal. And so I'll take it one step further. And I know I'm going off on tangents. I apologize. But so what happens is a lot of times we say to ourselves, well, I don't want a job. I don't want to be told what to do. I don't want to be restricted, right? So when I work with people, one of the first things I say is, why are you doing this? Tell me your why. And they'll give me all the reasons they don't want. But that wasn't my question. My question is why are you doing it? You just told me all the reasons that you're running away from. So in life, we're either running away from something or we're running to something. Most people that get out of a job or get out of a career, they're running away from that life that they don't want, but they have no idea where they're running to. They have no clue. They are just running as fast as they can, right? In the wrong direction with no clue. So I tell them, I'm like, why don't you tell me what you want? And many times they think and they're like, you know what? I really don't know. I've never thought about it. I've always been focused on what I don't want. Well, if you know anything about your mind and how your brain works, you have what's called a reticular activating system, which is what it's basically your what your brain focuses on. So if all you're doing is focusing on what you don't want, guess what happens? You end up right back in that same fucking parking lot that you left going, holy shit, I'm back in misery. This isn't what I wanted. But now you own your own business. Congratulations. It's a job because you're a slave to it and you can't get away from it. You're making no money. You're miserable because you thought you wanted freedom. Here's the thing. I don't think as entrepreneurs, we really want freedom. And just hear me out for a second. We think we want freedom. I want freedom to do what I want. I want to live my life. I want to go have dirty beers, whatever. It's not the freedom because look, we could all sell our shit tomorrow, go live in a car in the beach. But you know what we won't like about that? We may not like the memories that freedom created. It's the memories we're buying. It's not the freedom. If you have the money from real estate, from a business that's automated, just like Rafa, it's running on its own. Now you have the freedom. Now you take that freedom and go do what you want. Maybe it's vacation in Brazil for the week. Maybe it's going to have dinner in the Mediterranean in Greece and watching sunset. Maybe it's the Rolling Stones in London. I don't know. It's that memory. Because at the end of the day, you can't take freedom with you. You can take memories with you, and that's all we have. So I would, for your guests watching, I would say focus on creating memories. Don't focus on freedom. It's like one step short in the process.
Dude, all right, Steve. So I love what you're saying, man. There's so many things here that you're touching on. I remember because I'm part of your mastermind group on the Mondays. Well, it used to be Mondays, right? And so I remember one time, this was probably like 7-8 months ago. I don't know. I don't even know if you remember. We had a really small conversation, and I think we were waiting for the whole thing to start. And you asked me, you're like, why? What's your why? And I was like, I just kind of wanted to have like freedom to do what I wanted. And you're like, well, it sounds to me like, and you broke it down, like you were harsh about it. And I was, it's engraved in my mind. You're like, it sounds like you want control of your time. And I was like, that's exactly what I want. I want to be able to do what I want with who I want, when I want, but most importantly, where I want to do it. Right. If I can go spend the weekend across the street just because I can and bring all my friends and party for the weekend, that's what I want to do with them. If I want to go this year, I'm actually flying to Dubai for New Year's, right? And it's like, I've never done that. It's been a goal my entire life. And now I can actually fully do that and be like, I can take who I want with me. I can stay there as long as I want. And it came from that. Like now everything I do is focused literally around the control of my time. Like I don't make any decisions based on whether it's a waste of an hour, whether like, I read this awesome book called Who Not How, right? And I'm sure you read it. And they bring up the other day, my buddies come over because we went to this gun club that I'm a part of here in Huntington Beach. And they're like, who's in your house? And I'm like, oh, someone's cleaning my house. And they're like, why do you have someone clean your house? And I'm like, well, because I can spend an hour cleaning my house right now, or I can give it to the professional who's cleaning the house and I can come enjoy this 1 hour with you guys here and shoot weapons. What do I prefer to do back? I can save myself the $150 right now for this 1 hour, or I can use this 1 hour of time that I will never get back because God's not giving me any more time. Matter of fact, it's dropping, right? And I'm spending it with you guys here, having this conversation. And both of them looked at me like, shit, you're right. Like, what? And I was like, dude, like you guys gotta understand that the reason we do things now is to be able to enjoy these things, which is like what you just said right now resonated super hard, right? The whole memory behind it. Like that, I can't get that anywhere else. I could save the $150 to clean my house and do it myself, but I wasted an hour of my life that I'm never gonna get back ever, right?
Well, and here's an example, right? You've got the freedom. You can either, you're in Huntington Beach. You can go to El Torito in Santa Ana for New Year's, or you can go to Dubai. What memory do you think would be a better memory? If money wasn't, and that's the thing. It's like money is just a tool to give you the ability to go do that. I do these masterminds, right? I'm bringing in Brad Lee and the Iron Cowboy and these other people in my next mastermind. What kind of memory is that to be able to sit down with a guy like Brad Lee or Kevin Elko, who coaches Nick Saban of the Alabama Crimson Tide, and have a conversation with these guys one-on-one over dinner? I mean, what kind of memory is that? That's what I tell people. I'm like, you don't get it. Like, it's not the money, man. It's the network. One thing I've learned, and you know this from being in my mastermind, I'm a big believer in your network. And Brad Lee, I don't know if you're familiar with who he is, but he told me, he's like, Steve, your network is your net worth. Increase your network and you will increase your net worth. And I've always remembered that. And I always make sure that I keep my circle very big with people like them. I bring them in. I pay them to come speak at my masterminds. They reciprocate with me. I have their text messages. I can call them. I can, how often do you get to do that? Do you get to, you know what I mean? And those are the memories. When you can sit there and say, man, I had dinner with Brad Lee and we had a conversation, or you know what? I met the Iron Cowboy and we talked about running and pushing yourself past the limit. These are not normal conversations, right? It's not that we're special. We just chose to focus our time and energy on ourselves to become better people. And that's the whole thing. Like, it's funny. When I do these masterminds, I bring in real estate people, business people, and I tell them, I'm like, look, I'm not going to teach you how to buy per square foot better. Like, that's stupid. I'm going to teach you how to be a successful person. You're going to walk out of here as a new person, because if not, you're just going to be a broke person doing the same shit over again. I don't want that. I want you to think, you know what? I'm successful and I'm going to do what successful people do. And so to me, that's more important of learning the how and using the who to do the who, not how, right? Using who can do that, because I don't do that shit. I do my stuff from the neck up. And it's tough, right? Because that's not how we're born. That's not how we're schooled. I went to public high school, LA Unified School District. I'm no one special. I learn like everyone else. It's just how it is, right? They don't teach you how to be an entrepreneur. They teach you to be a good employee. So when you're breaking out of being an entrepreneur, you have to think differently and you have to retrain your brain after years and years of being pounded in to be a good employee.
Yeah, that's true. Steve, I mean, that's awesome that you're hanging out with these high level guys. And I bet you those conversations are freaking amazing too to have. And I think that you have to start thinking that you could be around these people. I think a lot of us now, like a lot of listeners, like, oh, I'll never be able to get around those people. Yeah, dude, you could just start.
Look, man, I'm not a fucking smart guy. I'm not anything different. I don't have a third arm. I'm just somebody who I am a very focused, driven person that lives on action. And you know what? I call them up and I'm like, hey, man, would you be interested in coming to my mastermind? They're like, tell me about it. I tell them about it. They're like, yeah. I got some Navy SEAL guys some friends I hang out with. They're like, I'm like, hey, I'd like to do something for your foundation. Well, can I do something? Maybe bring these guys in, let them come for free. They're like, absolutely. I just take action, man. I don't care if it's right or wrong. I'm just moving. I'm just a ball rolling down the hill, man. And people are just sticking to me because I just take positive action and I'm always thinking of other people to grow my network. It's always, I've always learned, be interested, not interesting. Meaning be interested in other people. Don't talk about yourself, which that's all I've done this episode. But, do your best to be interested in other people because people will value you more. And I've learned a lot by doing that. And I've taken a lot of that to heart. And look, here's what I've learned, guys. I've been around some very, very successful people. I've been coached and mentored by some of the best and people that I would call friends that now have me on their stages. There is a recipe for success. It's very simple. There's a recipe to fail. Many people, and every day, look, man, every day that we all wake up, we make a choice. I'm either going to be better than yesterday or I'm going to be worse. It's a very simple decision, right? And if you don't make a decision, you made a decision and it wasn't to be better. So every day I get up and I tell myself, you know what? I'm going to be fucking better than yesterday. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's an inch better. Maybe it's just one more rep at the gym. Whatever it is, I'm going to make one more phone call, right? I'm just going to do something to be better. And that's intentional. And so when I talk to these successful people, it's not like they're not super smart. They don't work super hard. They follow a recipe. It's like if you bake a cake, you don't put the frosting on first and then put it in the oven. It's going to be a disaster. There's a recipe for baking cake. So when I learned from these people that are successful, when I did my last mastermind here in Houston, and I had these three very high level speakers come. One guy had a company worth $49 billion. And what's interesting is we all said the same thing. Never talked to them about what we're going to talk about, but we all basically said the same shit all the time. And after I said, did you realize how we all kind of said the same thing, but none of us talked about what we were going to talk about? And they were like, yeah. I was like, that's not by chance. That's because we all follow a recipe. You want to follow a successful recipe? Come to a mastermind and learn from successful people. That's all it takes. It's not, like you said, it's not magic. It's not like I do anything different. It's just a recipe.
Yeah. Steve, that's freaking amazing. You don't think that you brought something up earlier. I'm going to touch on this real quick. Most people, you were talking about businesses, how they don't know where they're going or what they want. Most people don't even ask themselves, like, what do I want to do? They know they want to be millionaires or they know they want money, but they don't actually sit down and ask these questions themselves. Me meeting you, I'm going to ask more questions to you And most people in life will never gonna ask themselves those specific own questions. Like, they're gonna, what I mean? Like, so how do you get around that? How do you, somebody listening to this right now, like, I love your energy. First off, that's why I believe you're successful in what you're doing, man. First off, you have the energy, you're taking action. Like that, those are hard things to get, and how to genuinely be that. You have that. And I we'll talk about your mastermind in a second, but I really want to touch on this question where people just aren't necessarily asking themselves the questions. Like, is that a mindset thing?
You know what? Yes, it's a mindset thing, but it's also being okay with the answer that you may get. And the answer you may get, you may not like, right? So, again, I am okay when someone say, you fucking suck, dude. Like you are horrible. I'm okay with that. I've had people tell me that. But you know what though? How do I get better? How do I get better? So it's asking the how question. And so a lot of times I am okay with the, they say like, don't ask because you may not like the answer. I'm okay with the answer. It's not a reflection of me. So a lot of times when people fail, they look at it as a reflection of them, right? But here's the thing. So they're, oh, poor me, blah, 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 all this fucking pity party. But when they win, they're the smartest fucking people on earth. Well, I don't understand. Like, well, it doesn't go both ways, right? So it's like, you know what? You learn something from the win, but you know what, Joe? You learn a hell of a lot more from your losses. My millions of dollars that I've made were because of my failures, not because of my wins. Those shitty properties that I bought, those 40 properties, that made me many millions of dollars when I built a company and sold it to venture capital. Had I never messed this up and not had those sleepless nights, I would have been like, oh, real estate's fine. I got 40, 50 houses. I'm cool. Plug it. But I didn't, right? I totally fucked it up. And I was okay. One of the things I've learned, there's a term that one of my coaches taught me. His name was Brad Sugar, one of my mentors. And it was called above the line, below the line. And above the line is ownership, accountability, and responsibility. Below the line is blame and excuse and denial. So let's say, for example, we're all meeting at dinner, right? We're all meeting at dinner at 8 o'clock. And 8:05 shows up and you come walking in. Jesse walks in. He's like, hey, man, I'm sorry. Traffic was horrible. I don't give a fuck. Our meeting was 8 o'clock, not 8:05. What you should say is, you know what? That's on me. I should have left earlier. I didn't plan for traffic to be so bad. That's on me. I'm sorry. Own it. So that's ownership and being responsible. Blaming it on traffic, blaming it on this. Oh, sorry. I don't give a shit. So a lot of this is if you want to be successful, you have to show up and you have to have ownership and responsibility for what you're doing. If you suck at doing something, like I'll give you an example. I coach people that flip properties and all that stuff, right? And I'm a big believer that if you want to be successful, the most successful people on the planet are communicators. You want to make a lot of money, become a good communicator. You'll make a shitload of money, right? So here's the thing. All of a sudden, you want to be a successful flipper, wholesaler, whatever the fuck it is, right? Buying properties. I don't give a shit. You want to be this successful person. So I ask them, how often do you practice your scripts? Oh, I don't have scripts. I like to do it off the cuff. Really? So how would you like it if I was flying an airplane and I said, you know what? I'm not really sure how to do this today. I'm just going to do it off the cuff and we're going to see how it goes. We may go to Hawaii. We may go to Mexico. We may go to LA. We're not really sure how this is going to go. We're going to give it a shot. How comfortable would you feel? Here's another thing. You've got professional athletes. Professional athletes, let's say a football team, they practice every single day for one game on Sunday. All they do is practice every day. They're professionals. But you're telling me you're a professional salesperson in what you're doing to try to feed your family, but you don't think you should practice? You don't think, a football play is a script. Michael Jordan doing his play, that was a script. Tiger Woods walking up to the tee box, that is a script. So people, again, if you don't practice, how are you going to be good at anything, right? They say it takes 10,000 hours to become an expert. You're telling me you don't need to spend any money, but you're not making enough money to feed your family? You don't see the correlation between that? So again, it's a matter of showing up and being responsible. And part of that is learning to be better, being humble, and saying, you know what, I don't know the answer, but I'm willing to learn. And so for me, I was always, hey, you know what, I don't know, man. I'm willing to learn. When I go and I get coached and mentored, and I still get coached and mentored by people, I'm the best student. I come with a pen and paper, and there is no ego. I'm like, look, man, you tell me what to do, I'm going to do it. I'm fucking paying you a lot of money to train me. Tell me what to do. I may not agree with it. I may not like it, but it's not what I want and what I like. That's not why I'm there. This guy has the life and whatever he's teaching me, he has what I want. Why wouldn't I listen to this guy? He followed a recipe. I just want to follow his recipe. So going back to your question is you've got to be humble enough to be able to say, I don't know, but I'm willing to learn.
I love that. I talk about this often now, ever since I joined these masterminds. Like, I'm in some masterminds, they're not even teaching masterminds. They're more just networking masterminds, and I'm just in them just to be around those people because dude, every time I go to them, actually, Steve, I'm in Tim's mastermind, and I joined it because you brought Tim on to speak once, and I was like, dude, this guy's legit. I want to be around this stuff. Anyway, so I'm part of it now. And I go there, and every time I go to one of his events, I come back and like I get so much work done because I'm just like highly motivated, just seeing people that are like worth $2-3 billion that are, I'm like, what, like, I'm like the small fish in that entire thing. And I go in there and I just kind of feel dumb. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm here to get better. So that the next time I show up, I'm not as dumb as I was the last time I was here. Right. I can now learn something new, maybe apply it to my business or maybe partner up with somebody and become a different person and become better and do better. Right. So anyway, talking about masterminds, want to talk about yours for a second? Like, is it constant? Like, how is it?
Yeah, so I've got I do a 3-day mastermind. I bring people down to Houston. The next one is October 12th, 13th, and 14th. I've got different packages for what people want, but I bring in so this mastermind. I'll just tell you who's coming. The tail of the tape. I do it in a mansion. I take care of your hotel. I take care of all your food, all your entertainment. Everything is covered. You get to Houston, you're good. You don't have to worry. You don't have to go into your pocket. I'm not going to ask you for any money. You are going to learn and you are going to walk out of there a different person after 3 days. That's number one. But it's not just me, right? I'm going to show you how to become a different person. I'm going to show you how to change your life and your business the way airlines run, with perfection and precision and checklists, and to think like a successful person. That's number one. But the people I bring in, and that's the synergy of this whole thing. Now, I only bring in 15 people, maybe 20 people tops for this event. It's very, very small group, secluded. And there's a reason why I do this. Is Bradley, he owns Lightspeed VT. He works with Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, Zig Ziglar, all these big names on his training platform. It's a $100 million revenue company. So Brad is coming to speak. I'm friends with Brad. He's honored me enough to come down and speak. Then I'm bringing in the Iron Cowboy. So Brad's going to talk about how to basically build a business from scratch and who you have to become to have the balls basically to go out there and throw it out there and do it. James Lawrence is the Iron Cowboy. He won 2 Guinness World Records, or he holds 2 Guinness World Records. He did the 50-50-50. He did 50 triathlons in 50 days in 50 states. Halfway through, he broke his leg and kept going. You want to talk about a guy that can persevere through shit that you think that you can't do it? This guy, he's super cool. So he's coming as a guest speaker. Then I've got a guy named Dr. Kevin Elko. Kevin Elko is the coach's coach. So whenever you see these football games on Saturday, like, for example, the Alabama Crimson Tide or the New England Patriots, and you go, what happens when those guys start getting on a losing streak? How do they get their head back? Well, Kevin Elko is Nick Saban's coach. He coaches Nick Saban on mindset. He coaches Belichick. He coaches a lot of the professional NFL teams. He has 32 championship rings. They call him in when there's bad culture in the team, bad morale, and they can't fix it, and the coach is at their wits' end, and they're starting a losing streak, and there's a lot of money on the line. That's what he does. So I've got Kevin Elko, and then last I have Errol Allen. Errol is the systems expert. He is the guy that I hired in my company that showed me how to systemize my company to make it run without me. So when he comes, he's actually, I'm paying. He's not offering, I'm paying. He's going to do coaching sessions with people throughout the year. And Kevin Elko agreed to do quarterly coaching sessions with everyone who attends. So you get to talk to a guy who coaches Nick Saban. I mean, you want to talk about proximity to people. It's like, holy shit. I mean, so these are the people I bring in. And honestly, I had Kevin Elko at my last one. He did such an amazing job. He actually called me and said, hey, Steve, I'd love to come back and do that again. That was so much fun. I was like, really? He's like, yeah, man. He's like, this was amazing. I was like, okay, I'd love to have you back, But that's it, and I've actually got people that went to the last one that are coming again because they're like, this was so amazing. So it's look, it's not something where we're going to sit around and make you feel good. You're going to do a lot of thinking. You're going to become a different person. But I guarantee you, when you walk out of there, you are going to have some people in your Rolodex that you never thought you would have. You're going to have some connections that you never even realized were possible. And you are going to be thinking and becoming a successful person, which to me says it all. That's what I want. I want you to walk out of there as a new person, ready to take on the next chapter of your life.
Dude, that's awesome. So is it already full, or you got space, or?
No, it's not full. We just opened it up. And if anybody wants to know, they can reach out to me directly. They can email me, or they can they can obviously social media. I don't know if you'll have my bio, my information in the chat. They can email me directly. But yeah, look, we want to make sure the people that come, we want to make sure it's a fit. Look, I've got some people that have been in business for 2 years. A good friend of mine, he's in the mastermind, Daniel Kong. He came out from Honolulu. He does flipping. And he was like, dude, he's like, I never thought that this is what I would walk away with. So I bring in business people, I bring in real estate people. And what's interesting is all of a sudden everyone starts talking about how they can work together. And now you get cross-pollination. So now you're getting these high-level people that are going, hey, I'm in Dallas, you're in Hawaii. Why don't we talk about partnering up on doing stuff? So partnerships are formed. So yeah, it's gonna be legit. And like I said, it's very limited. We want to make sure that the people who come are a good fit. So we don't just want anyone. We want to. It's not like I don't want to say no to people. I just want to make sure they understand what they're in for. Like they are here to learn, and they are. I'm not. It's not. We're not sitting in a seminar room. We do this in a mansion that I pay for, and that you are getting the 5-star treatment. Because the reason I do that is I want you to see what it's going to be like when your life is that way. So you can imagine going, man, I can fucking have this. I can have this 12,000 square foot mansion. This is doable. I can go to 5-star restaurants like you were saying, Rafa. I can do these things. I can create memories that I can take back to me to go, now I know the goal that I want to achieve.
Yeah. And it's not, Steve, it's not just for real estate investors. This is for like any business owner, any entrepreneur. It's not limited.
It's everything. Nope, it's not limited. It's everything, because we all are running a business. Yeah. And that's the thing. It's like you actually walk out of there with a 90-day plan, right? And you walk out of there with a blueprint for the next year. Like, we create your blueprint for strategy for success. And we actually create 90-day actionable items that you walk out of there with a sheet of, this is what I have to do the next 90 days. And then you get someone like Errol Allen, who's going to coach you 5 sessions over the next year. And freaking Kevin Elko, man. I was like, holy shit, man. To have a conversation with Kevin Elko to get coaching, this guy has the hotline to Nick Saban, man. I mean, I'm like, and Belichick, I'm like, this doesn't get better than this. Like, if you can't be successful after talking to Brad Lee and these other guys, I don't know what to tell you.
Dude, I love it. All right, cool. Yeah. It's getting to the top of the hour. I just realized what time it was. So we want to transition to our 2 questions. Before that, Jesse, any final questions here for Steve?
Man, I got a billion questions, but you know what? We'll have to. We didn't even dive into real estate a whole lot today. But Steve, you know what, man? I like this even better because real estate's just one vessel, and business is another. Like, you have to have the business mindset first off, and you touched literally on all those things. And I think that you mentioned it a billion times already. It all comes back to real estate. I mean, it all comes back to the business, your mindset, what your goals are, attached to it. So, I mean, man, we'll have to have you on again another time.
Real quick, just to kind of tie this up, what I always tell people, and I'm a big believer in real estate. I still own real estate. I'm in syndications and funds with friends of mine from Bigger Pockets and stuff. But I tell people, first create the business that creates the fountain of revenue. A business will make you rich. Real estate will make you wealthy. Many people do it wrong. They don't have the money to go buy the real estate. Build the business that starts pushing out the money, then go buy generational wealth to create the real estate. Do it. People, we do it backwards, right? We're like, oh, I'm going to go buy a fucking house, but I got no money. Now I'm fucking broke. I don't know what to do. It's like, dude, you're doing it wrong. Create the business model and then go from there.
Dude, everything you're saying, Steve, it's funny. Like, I follow everything you're saying. It's funny. It's what I did. I built my short-term rental business to get the cash flow to be able to buy the properties. And then I made sure that the business was flowing, right? So anyway, man, this was an awesome conversation. So let me ask you, being that this is the Big Break Show, tell us what was your big break in life, business, entrepreneurs, like anything that got you from old Steve to new Steve? You kind of touched on it a little bit, but maybe something else, or I don't know if it's the same one, whatever it is.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of touching on it. I think there's two major points in my life that I always remember that Well, there's several, but I'll keep it short. The one thing were my failures of owning real estate. That was a huge hit to me. It was an ego check, right? I mean, you got to basically admit that you failed, right? That everything that you did was wrong, and you got to basically man up and go, you know what? I totally fucked this up, and now I owe a lot of money, and I've got to figure this out, right? So that was the first thing. The other thing I learned is when I sold my business. Okay, my business was doing very well. We sold it for several $1 million. We did very well, but the business was doing fine. And I had a lot of people ask me, they're like, Steve, why did you sell your business? It was doing good. You guys were growing, you were expanding. I was speaking all over the world as a paid speaker about business and real estate. And I said, life is like a book, and a book is made up of chapters. So when I was in high school, my high school years were a chapter. When I was in college, that was a chapters. 20s were a chapter, 30s were a chapter. Owning this business was a chapter of my life. The chapter doesn't need to end badly to end the chapter. The chapter was done for me. Many people carry on a chapter until they're fucking miserable and they hate it. I didn't want that to happen. I knew it was time to end the chapter. So I realized everything has a start and everything has a stop in life. And selling my business allowed me to do what I do now. Coach people, help people, share my knowledge, and that's the new chapter. So where I'm going was selling the business financially, yes, but it made me realize that there's more to life than just making money. It's helping people. It's being a part of something bigger. And so to me, that was a big thing that, selling the business, it wasn't like anything bad. It was good, but it was a self-realization that it's not the destination, it's the journey. I look at us like we're like sharks. We're all on a journey. We don't go to a destination. Our destination is 6 feet under the ground. That's our destination. It's the journey we do on the way. It's the memories we create. So that was a big thing for me of creating those journey and creating the memories along the way.
I love it.
I love that.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. That is fantastic. So, Steve, one of the other segments here of our show is learn and apply. So, something that somebody listened to today, an actionable step that somebody could take from listening to this hour-long episode, they can literally go after they listen to this and go do something. What would that be?
Well, first thing is start with the end in mind. Really design what your life is going to look like and work it backwards. And the next thing, man, just fucking take action. It doesn't have to be right. Just get it on the freaking highway. Chances are you are going to suck and you are going to fail and you are going to make mistakes, and that's okay. Get up anyways and keep getting up. And eventually you're going to figure out what not to do. You're not going to touch the hot stove. So to sum that up, just take action. Don't overplan it. Don't overthink it. It's like as a little kid riding a bike. You didn't think of all the things that could go wrong. You just got on the bike and just started riding. You fell over, you got up. You fell over, you started falling less. Now you're doing BMX jumps and all these other things. Just get on the bike, man. Just start riding. Don't overthink it. Don't let people get in your head. If you're around people that are telling you not to do it, change your fucking friends, man. Get away from those people. Those people are toxic. Get around people that are successful. Get around masterminds. Do things that what it takes. And don't be afraid to be the different person, because the person that you are today, I guarantee you, is not going to be the person that gets you to the next level. You have to change how you think. You have to change who you're around. And you have to change everything about you if you want to become that new person. Otherwise, you're going to stay, because we all have an internal thermostat, and our internal thermostat is set. And if you don't do something, Kevin Elko says, don't be the thermometer, be the thermostat. Don't just take the temperature, set the temperature. I love that saying. I thought that was cool. So there you go. Could you imagine 3 days with me in a mastermind?
Hell yeah, I could. I'd be freaking amazing. So, Steve, that leads me to where can people find you at?
Yeah, so they can, I'm on all social media channels. Rozenberg Steve on Instagram, Facebook. I've got a website, steverozenberg.com, Rozenberg. They can find me there. I'm very approachable. If anybody wants to know more about the mastermind, you can email me at steve@steverozenberg.com. It's Rozenberg.com. But if you send me a message on any channel, I get it. I am the one who answers it. I think it's respectful that if you reach out to me, that I respond. That's just how I was raised. So if you've got a question, and look, I'm not going to charge you to talk to me. If somebody wants to talk to me and they got a question, I help people all the time when they have questions, because I think it's the right thing to do. Because I think if I can help more people and increase my network, it's going to help me in the long run, and I'm good with that.
So, Steve, if somebody actually reaches out to you, they're actually talking to you?
They're actually talking to me. Yeah, no, they're actually talking to me. I've had some people go like, "Oh, is this a bot?" I'm like, "What do you fucking think, man?" I'm like, it's me. It's totally me. I answer everyone. I talk to them. Again, I think it's just respectful. I was taught if somebody takes the time to ask me a question, either don't answer them or don't offer to answer. But if you tell people, call me, and they call me. I get people text messaging me all the time. I just think it's, again, good, bad, or indifferent. It's just how I am. And I believe in giving back.
100% agree. Well, there it is, folks. Mr. Steve Rozenberg. If you don't know him, you should. And he's started off as an airline pilot. He was not a solo. He didn't land his plane on the Hudson.
I didn't land on the Hudson. No, I didn't do that.
But you did do a lot of other things. You failed at real estate and you came back from it. You didn't let that hold you down. And your energy is fantastic, man. I think it's probably one of the most upbeat people we've had on this show. And there it is, folks. Steve's making shit happen in real life. He's got a seminar coming up in, what'd you say, September? I'm actually going to look into that. October
12th, 13th, 14th.
October 12th, 13th, and 14th in Houston, right? Houston, Texas.
Yep.
Have Bradley and a couple other folks out there talking with them. Dude, I'm super pumped on that. We'll have all the show notes down below. If this resonates with anybody listening, or you can possibly share this with somebody who it could resonate with, please do. Please follow Steve on the social media stuff. We appreciate you guys all for being here. Rafa, any last words? Any final comments?
Steve, thanks for coming on, man. I've been wanting to get you on the show forever, so I appreciate you jumping on. And this was great. This was really, really good, dude. I'm glad it became more of a mindset conversation than it was a real estate conversation, because it was really, really good. So, and business, right?
Yeah. I look, guys, I appreciate what you guys are doing, and you guys are out there killing it. And like I said, if you guys, I'd love to have you guys in Houston, and you come back and sing the praises to everyone else. And I think it'd be, again, we're all on a journey. We're all learning, right? Anyone who says they're not learning, they're fucking lying, and they're shrinking. So it's like we're all trying to be better. And I'm glad you guys were able to give me a platform to share how I think. Rafa knows from my masterminds that I do. I'm not here to be your friend. I'm here to make you successful. And sometimes it's saying stuff that you don't want to hear, but I don't say it mean. I say it because I'm trying to help you. And that's what I would want a friend to do. I would want a friend to be real and not, blow smoke. It's like, tell me how it really is. And that's what I do.
100%. Steve, man, we appreciate it so very much.
No problem. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Thank you.